Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for sticking by me. If you're new here, welcome to the family. So today's video is going to be about the American credit system, or an introduction to credit cards, and this is targeted especially towards international students. So when I moved here, I kind of had to figure this out by myself, but you don't have to because I've made this video for you. Before I even go into the video, if there is one thing, just one thing that you take away from this video, I want it to be that remember that a line of credit is not your money, it is a loan which you have to pay back. I know this might sound scary if you come from a country that doesn't have a credit system like me. I'm Nigerian, we don't really have a credit system in Nigeria, so I didn't grow up with this, but I'll explain to you why it's not that bad and you can also make it work to your advantage. So the first thing to tackle is where to get a credit card from. So you can get a credit card from your regular local bank or credit union, so just like all kinds of local banks. You can also get them from online banks, and towards the end of the video I would share my recommendation with you and why I recommend this bank, all of that. One thing to note though is that you need a social security number to get a credit card. At least you need this to get one with a decent line of credit, and you can get a social security number by having a job. Even if it's a part-time job on campus, have one. In this video that I would link here, one of these places, I talk about the things that I wish I knew before coming to the US, but something that I forgot to include in that video is getting a social security number. So to do this, like I said earlier, you just need a job. So even if it's just a part-time job on campus, get one so you can have a social security number. This social security number is going to provide you access to so many other things in the country. It is very important. The next thing to discuss is the types of credit cards. So there are two main types of credit cards. There's a secure credit card and there's an unsecured credit card. So a secure credit card is one that requires you to put down some sort of deposit with the bank or with the card company before opening this line of credit. The disadvantage of this is that usually they have lower credit lines, or the amount of money that you can get on the credit card is much lower than an unsecured one. But it's a good starting point for people who maybe do not trust themselves to manage a credit line well, or people who are just starting out. And now let's jump into your credit score, which is really the most important part of the entire credit system. So what's your credit score? What's the point of this? The whole point of a credit score is to determine your credit worthiness. What this means is how likely you are to pay back your loan on time. It basically shows how responsible you are with finances, and this comes in handy later in life, if you plan to stay here long term, when you have to get a mortgage, or if you want to buy a car, even things as little as renting an apartment. Sometimes when you apply to get an apartment, they would ask for your credit score. They would look up your credit score, your credit history. So this is very important. It's something that you should take seriously. So your credit score ranges from 300 to 850. Different sources break down the ranges in different ways, but in general, a good credit score is a score of 670 and above. So a score of 670 to 740 is good. Above 740 to 800 is very good, and between 800 and 850 is excellent. So the next big question is, what makes up your credit score? And there are 5 main things that make up your credit score. The first and most important is your payment history. The second is your credit utilization. The third is the length of your credit, or the length of your credit history. The fourth is the mix of your credit, what kind of different credits do you have, and the fifth is new credit. I'm going to explain each of these things step by step. Let's talk about your payment history. This is pretty self-explanatory, but it makes up 35% of your credit score. So your payment history shows your behavior with paying your debt. So do you pay your debt back on time? That's basically the most important factor. The second thing is your credit utilization. This makes up 30% of your credit score. And your credit utilization basically is how much of your line of credit you use. It's advised to use less than 30% for a good score, but if you want to have like an excellent credit score, use less than 10%. But of course, do what works for you. But please try to keep your utilization below 30%. What this means is if you have a credit line of $1,000 per month, every month, try to use only $300 or less. So $300 is 30% of 1,000. Do not spend more than $300 on that card that has $1,000 credit line. The third factor is your length of credit. So the longer you've had credit, the more positive effect it has on your credit score, and this takes into account the length of your oldest credit, newest one, and like an average of all your credit accounts, and this contributes 10% to your credit score. The next factor is the length of your credit. This contributes 15% to your credit score, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So it takes into account the age of your oldest credit line, your newest credit line, and an average of all your credit lines or account. So it's basically how long you've had a line of credit or how long you've been using the credit system. The fourth factor is credit mix. This contributes 10% to your credit score. So it basically takes into consideration what different types of credit lines you have. So is it like a credit card, mortgage, auto finance, and all the other different lines of credit that you can get. If you're an international student, you most likely won't have to bother too much about this because most people do not have mortgages and all of that. You only need to think about your credit card. The last factor is new credit. This contributes 10% to your credit score. It basically takes into consideration how much new credit you have. So opening too many lines of credit in a short time actually hurts you, so don't do that. Now that we're done with what makes up your credit score, the next question would be, so how do you know what your credit score is? Usually you can find your credit score like with your credit card company, your bank. So if you have an app or the website, you can log on there and see this. But the problem with this is that it usually takes at least 6 months for this to show up. But there is an app and a website that should be your absolute best friend. It's called Credit Karma. I'll put the link to Credit Karma in the description. Please go on Credit Karma, sign up, create an account. They're going to do like the linking and all of that. Fill out your details. On Credit Karma, you would already see your credit score before your traditional banks or credit card company is going to make this available for you. So you have a better head start at really working towards getting your credit score at the best it can be, even before your credit card company or your bank starts to show you what your score is. The next thing we're going to tackle is your payment history and credit utilization. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. But before we get into this, if you found this video useful so far, please give me a like. Please subscribe to my channel. Over 80% of the people who view my videos are not subscribed. Guys, please, it's not going to take anything. 5 seconds. Let's wait. Just click the subscribe button and click the like button. Now let's get back to the video. There are 2 very important dates linked to your payment history and your credit utilization, and these are your statement due date and your statement closing date. I'll explain what they both mean. I'm going to start with the due date. So the due date is pretty much self-explanatory. It's when your credit card bill is due. So you have to pay this bill by that date. I'd advise that you pay at least 1 to 2 business days before this day, because it takes some time for the payment to go through and to, get processed and all of that. You definitely do not want to pay your bills late. Take it from me, your payment history makes up 35% of your credit score. It's very important. The good thing about credit cards anyway is that usually most of them would have a minimum payment. So say you have a bill, your statement comes in and your bill is $200-300. Usually you could pay the minimum payment of $35, and that would count. If you pay this before the due date, that would also count in your favor because you've made that payment, you've made the minimum payment, and that's okay. However, don't make it a habit to only pay the minimum payment possible. Please try to pay your debt as much as you can. This is also to your advantage. Your due date is usually 20 to 25 days after your closing date, and you're probably wondering, what is your closing date? So your closing date is the last day of your current billing cycle. For example, if you have a statement cycle that runs from the 1st to the 30th of the month, the 30th is your closing date, and this is the date where your credit usage for that month is reported to the credit bureau and you get a bill. Now, this date is very important because when you know this date, you can actually pay off some of your bills before it gets reported. Remember that I said you need to keep your utilization low, below 30%, but sometimes you make big purchases on your card and you go above 30%. So going above 30% in its own is not bad. The disadvantage there is when this expense that goes above 30% is reported to the credit bureau. So if you have a credit line of say $1,000 and for whatever reason you go crazy, you make this big purchase and you've spent like $600 out of $1,000 credit line, that's 60%. It's an absolute no-no. If you have this, if you know that your closing date is on the 30th, before the 30th rolls around, you can and you absolutely should pay off a huge chunk of that $600. So pay down to less than 30%, so less than $300. This way, that $600 expense is not going to get reported on your account. So your utilization still technically remains low. And you're probably wondering, if I make a big purchase, why am I paying with my credit card and then I have to pay off the credit card? Can't I just pay with cash or with my debit card? Yes, you can. But the thing is that sometimes credit cards have some sort of perks or bonuses. They can have cashback and things like this that you may want to take advantage of. Cashback is basically, like the name says, cash gotten back from expenses made on your credit card. So different credit cards have all kinds of offerings from 1 to 3, 5% cashback. So basically you get a certain percentage given back to you after making expenses on your credit card. It's just an incentive to get people to use their credit cards more often, but you need to be careful with this, of course. Something that I forgot to talk about concerning the due date is that it's not actually fixed. So when you get a credit card, they're going to assign a random due date to you, but you don't have to stick with this date forever. You can call the bank and change it, but at least for the banks that I use, you can only do this after 3 months of having the card. So you just have to deal with the first due date if it's uncomfortable for you, but just keep in mind that this is not set in stone and you can change it after some time. Before getting a credit card, definitely read the fine print. So what are the interest rates like? Are there any annual fees? Some credit cards have annual fees that you have to pay. All the ones I use do not have annual fees, because why am I paying for that? I mean, the credit cards that have annual fees usually have really nice perks and all of that, but I don't need all of that. So please read the fine print. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to give a recommendation for a credit card that I think is really good for people who are just starting out, and this is the Discover Student Cashback Credit Card. I really like this credit card because I think it's a very good place to start. They have a very good beginner line of credit. I think you get $2,000 off the bat, but of course you need to have a social security number for this. Apart from that, it has no annual fees. It has 5% cashback every quarter from specified or specific places, and then you get 1% unlimited cashback on all other purchases round the year. You also get 100% cashback match. So remember I talked about what cashback is. In your first calendar year, if you get, I don't know, whatever amount you get in cashback is matched and that amount is given back to you. So if you spend a lot of money and you've gotten $200 in cashback for the year, Discover matches that and gives you an additional $200. In addition to all of this, Discover also has a referral program. So if you use my link in the description, you're going to get $100 in statement credits to your account when you get approved and make a purchase in your first 3 months of opening your account. For the sake of transparency, I'm also going to get $100 in credit. So if you found this video useful, please consider using my link in the description. Of course, when you open your card, you can also start to refer other people, so make the world go around. And some final points to wrap up this video. your credit line is not definite, so it either increases automatically after some time, or you can request an increase. Usually after 6 months of having your credit line, I've just requested an increase to my Discover card last week, and I got like an additional $1,000 credit line. The good thing about this is that if you keep your expenses the same but your credit increases, your utilization rate drops, which is of benefit to you. So definitely look into increasing your credit line after some time. Something else to also notice, after you've had your credit card, or you've gotten into the credit system for some time, you're going to start getting unsolicited credit offers. Just hold on. Like you would get off sort of pre-approved credit card offers from other credit card companies, or even personal loans. I recently got a personal loan offer of up to $50,000. I'm like, what am I doing with all that money? That's just like a big trap. Do not fall for it. I mean, like personal loans and all of that. But if you get an offer from a good credit card company and you read the fine print, consider all the pros and cons, and decide that it's for you, of course, you can switch, but please don't be reckless with this. Something to keep in mind when switching or like changing from one card company to the other is pay off your debt on the other card, but don't close that account, because closing that account deletes all the history that you have with that company or with that card, and this would negatively affect your credit score. I probably have missed some things in this video, but I think I've covered the really most important points to keep in mind when you just move here and when you're like trying to get into the credit system in America. It's not as confusing as it seems. As long as you use your credit card responsibly, keep your credit utilization low, and pay your bills on time, you're going to be fine. As a reminder, I have my referral link to Discover in the description box. If you use this link, you get $100 in credit statement to your account. I know this video might have been a little bit longer than my regular videos, but I really needed to get all of the details out there. Thank you so much for sticking by me. If you're still here up until this point, please give this video a like. It really helps me, and the algorithm helps new people discover my content. Please leave me a comment as well, telling me what you like, or asking questions for something that I might have mentioned that it's not very clear. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Finally, please let me know what kind of content you would like to see on my channel. I really want this channel to be a resource, like just a well-rounded guide for people who are just moving to the country, especially my fellow international students. So please let me know if there's something that you'd like me to talk about that I haven't made a video on so far. I'm really open to suggestions. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.